since I found serenity. You can't take the sky from...
What the? Reavers? Welcome everybody. Pursuit here, giving you a walkthrough tour of my accurately scaled Serenity Firefly. Most of the Fireflies I had seen on the community Steam pages were larger than the actual Serenity is, which makes them nice and spacious, but I wanted to go for a more accurate size, which was kind of hard to do with how big the blocks are. So you can see as we go inside that I've had to pack a lot of stuff into this. Let me just give a quick spin around tour of the outside of the ship. We will go inside and look around, and then I will try and explain what is actually going on here with all the components that I've tried to give as adjusted for space engineers and make this a very functional ship. As you know from building space engineers, you could probably go on forever adding on to your ships, but I feel this is fairly complete. I'll probably add stuff on later, but it's good enough now that we can do a walkthrough of it. We do have a working cargo door here, a walk-in cargo door. Using the blast doors. As you can see, there's a piston up there behind the wall to make both these work together. Also note that on a piston door you may want to make sure things are fully repaired. I had this one flying around, it was making lots of banging noises, and I realized that this piston right over here was not fully repaired. So if you hear banging, it only did it when it was closed, though when it was open it didn't do it, so just something to pay attention to with this ship, and probably ships in general when you have piston doors when you're flying around. Got a fairly tight, you don't want them to bump together because you can cause problems, but fairly tight there, nothing's going to get through that gap. Closes and opens. I do not have the part of the door that lays down in front here. I had too many problems with the rotors, something I might add on later if I can get it functioning a little bit better, but just too many problems once you get flying around and bumping into things. Closing door was what I was going for there. As you can see here, the cargo bay is not extremely large. It's about appropriate though. You can walk underneath the first part here, and it's only about the height of, 3, 4, 5 people tall. That's all it was on Serenity, so it's not an extra large bay here. We do have the refinery on the side here to process all your ores. We've got an assembler over here. Both of these are hooked up to a conveyor system altogether. Most of what you'll see here is hooked up to the conveyor system. It runs through the wall here to connect it up, and I think up behind, inside the back room here, which we'll go back into in a minute. Up there leads to the bridge, the pilot seats. Now we got some cargo containers here, which worked well for moving the conveyor system where I wanted it to, so the cargo bay is a little messy, but that's how it is on Serenity, a little bit messy. So let's, instead of going up to the bridge, we'll go to the back of the ship first. As you see, both of these doors here are mainly for appearance. This one's really not much of anything over here, just kind of storage areas. That one's a little larger with the actual storage containers, but you really wouldn't want to use those for anything. In the back here, for those of you who know Serenity, you come back into the back area here, and we have the infirmary, or the medical room. I put a piece of glass here to kind of enclose it a little bit so it feels more contained rather than just an object sitting out in the middle of a room. We've got the passenger quarters back here. Just kind of blocked it off. They're not really that useful. Just trying to give, some of this is going to be more for appearance sake, and some of it's going to be functional. Try to do a good mix of both of them in here. So, you can take these out, put some cargo containers in. They might look just as good as pretending cargo containers are actual places for people to live. We've got the back staircase here behind the medical room that leads up to the little hallway here which will put us into the engine room. And of course the engine room doesn't look quite like it did on Serenity. I tried to make the appearance look somewhat similar, but it didn't really work out. Instead, I opted to go with several reactors here. I think we've got like 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many are in there, we'll look in a minute here. And we've got several of these gyroscopes here, which I liked to make Serenity feel like it could really move like a leaf on the wind. I'm just pulling in here. Actually, this is a good place to swing by again real quick, because I really should have done the tour from the outside. Give you an idea of how it looks from the outside from all different directions. I think it turned out fairly well. What I wanted to pull up here was the internals, just to give you a quick rundown of everything. That got several cameras, several connectors, a few different control stations. The one that we're looking at right now is in the back engine room. We got doors, 3 gravity generators, because I kind of wanted to break it up rather than just having a big block. We got some 17 gyroscopes there. Like I said, I liked a lot of gyroscopes to make it move well. We'll take a look at how well it moves. We got 3 large thrusters, 1 on each wing and 1 in the back. Got the medical room infirmary. We've got a merge block up front to add additions onto the front of the ship if you wanted to use it for other means, like either mining or welding or grinding. Kind of an all-purpose ship is what I went for here. We got an ore detector on the front there too, so you can see what's going on. And the merge block idea was kind of, a detachable. You could use the merge block along with the projector to put something on the front there, and then disconnect the merge block and either store the part or just disassemble it, whichever seemed to work better. We got pistons for the cargo doors and a couple of pistons that are just cosmetic on the wings. In this actual Serenity, you have the extenders that go out and make the wings kind of pull down when it lands. I did have it working for that, but it was too unstable. The pistons and rotors in Space Engineers are a little too unstable for everyday purpose. So I had a working version, but I didn't feel it was well enough to actually use for a full-time ship. So we got the projector, the refinery, got some sensors on the belly here that really aren't configured, but I figured they would be good for landing if you wanted to configure them. Several cargo containers. What do we got? Like 11 reactors in the back and 1 in the front in case you lose the ones in the back. 2 of the gyroscopes were also up in the front, so if you have a lot of destruction in the back, you've at least got some backup in the front, kind of split up. We've got some solar panels, some spotlights. 1 of them is actually functional in the front, 1 that's lower to kind of spotlight, and 2 more that are for cosmetic reasons that we'll go over later. So, if that wasn't boring enough, and if you're still around here looking at the tour, let's move on. So, like I said, we got 2 seats here. You can fly the ship from the back. We've got up here in the kitchen area, which I really like the way this turned out. We have the skylights here. We've got it closed off because I told it to close all the doors, but this door is apparently broken. There we go. So I got a double click in there. But you got the skylight here you can look up through like you would see on Serenity normally, and we'll go outside and look at that a little bit better from the outside also. We've got several escape hatches here. I tried to put them in the same places as they were on Serenity. You obviously can't get a seal like you would have maybe in a real spaceship, but we were always in spacesuits in Space Engineers, so that'll work as a good escape hatch. Got the gravity generator up here for the main area, and just some blocks that seem to work best for different purposes. These are actually to make it so you can get in and out of the ship. They make the outside look better. The way you have to place blocks, sometimes you have to be inventive, and it kind of just added to the making an interesting look in here with some benches and some, you can kind of pretend this is shelves or something in the kitchen, and some cargo spaces here to store your food and whatnot. And then we've got this nice bay window here. I really like the way this turned out. We'll look at this again from the outside here a little bit later, but let's go through the door here. You can kind of get a peek of it through here too, because you know that's how space engineers work. Things don't always fit the way you want them to, but I think it turned out pretty well. Pretty well, I would say. This is the hallway that leads up to the bridge. We will come back to that in just a minute. I just wanted to show the entrance, how you would get. Here is the cargo bay. We go up those stairs and come up here. And I also wanted to show the entrance to the wings here, the shuttle entrances. So there is one of the shuttles sitting out on the wing. Let's go on the other side where there is not a shuttle. And on Serenity, these are not connected like this, but I couldn't get the blocks to work the way I wanted to, and this felt like a good alternative that didn't mess with the look of Serenity too much. So here we got the wing out here, kind of a little indented part here where you can land the ship next to it, and you could pretend that you're like got some kind of an airlock here that you're bumping up against. There's one of the shuttles there. That's nowhere near done. I'm just kind of a mock-up of what I wanted it to look like, possibly. Got the wing out here you can land ships on. We'll go back inside and give you a little peek of that, but let's not go on to that just yet. Not the outside just yet. Let's finish looking around on the inside, because this ship was about the outside of the ship, but it was also about making the inside look, you know, fairly like I would think it would look on Serenity. It's tight though, so you really have to try and have to use a lot of these passageways to make it all fit in here, and things not just popping out all over the place. We've also got both of the emergency exits here that are in front of the wings. Got one on that side, one on the other side. We've got just kind of a, I don't know what this was going to be, but we can add some parts and components in there later. We've got a reactor back there. We've got the grav generator for the front, and we've got some conveyors here running underneath to hook things up together. So let's go back up to the crew quarters hallway here. We've got several crew quarters here. I tried to make them 2 spaces in size. You can't really close these off very well, so I'm just kind of trying to mock up the hallway here. I hope those who know Serenity fairly well will kind of recognize the setup I'm going for here. I thought about making it a tighter room here, like 1 wide, but I felt like this deserved a little bit extra effort, and the way Serenity goes, this hallway right here actually slanted up towards the bridge, so it kind of ended up opening up too high rather than just one. It seemed to work better. So you know, you have the 5 main crew quarters here that kind of go wherever I can get them to get 2 blocks in, just pretending like somebody actually lives there. Like I said, I'm going for the functionality here of Space Engineers with the look of what Serenity would be like. In Serenity, there's like a little room here on the side, so I put a cargo container there and just kind of added some in here and there to hook everything back up together. We have the bridge here, which I think turned out fairly well. I originally had some more batteries right here, but I needed some gyros in the front to make it feel like I had some security if things went bad in the back, something we can escape with. And up here we got the bridge, so we got the little staircase, well, the little more of a ladder is what it is in Serenity, but I want to be able to walk up and down it, so I put a staircase in. Kind of a little opening area here. We got the co-pilot seat and the pilot seat, so we hop into the pilot seat here. You can see kind of the feel for how it might feel to be flying Serenity here, and this is a little more open than Serenity is, but these glass blocks work very well for giving you a good shape as the head of Serenity would look. So that's why I went with those instead of the typical blocks that might be outside. A little more open here to be able to view your screen fairly well. And inside or sitting here viewing stuff, several of the cameras here I've set up to give a little bit better perspective on what you might be seeing, like the forward wings. This is the right wing. You can kind of see the side of the ship there. Oh, I'm moving around. I don't want to move around. I'm gonna smack that shuttle out there on the side. So you know, you got the wings there. You've got not a lot you'll be able to see the ship in, but it's more to get views of things that are going on outside. You know, if you want to go for realism and not use the Alt key to whip around the camera. We've got some in the rear here too. Let's see. We've got the internal tube. Oh, that's the connector. No wonder that didn't make sense. One of these is a rear. Okay, yeah, we got some on the rear here, kind of on the side of the housing, so you can see the ship. This is the right side of the ship, looking backwards from just behind the wing. From the cockpit here, also, I wanted to give you a little bit of a demonstration of how well the ship moves, and I also wanted to mention that that little stairway there on the left behind me is not like it is on Serenity, but like I said, the slope of the crew hallway kind of made it so I couldn't make it as accurate as I would like to. But enough of that. Let's show you actually how the ship would fly. So I'm going to pull onto the outside of the ship and just kind of give a example of how well the ship moves. You can kind of use that little shuttle there to kind of judge how well we're moving. So let's back up just a little bit to show a good beginning thrust of the ship. It takes off fairly well for a large ship. You can whip this thing around pretty quick if you want to. I found that just whipping the ship, it looks like one of those is damaged on the side there. I found that if you whip the ship around, you actually can stop a lot faster than trying to use a forward thruster, because it's got a lot more thrust on the back of this ship, but it turns very nicely. So just using that little ship there again as a demonstration of how well this thing turns. You can rotate pretty quick. I'm really kind of pleased with how well it turned out as I'm ramming that little ship there. Not a demonstration of how the ship turns. It does not move very well to the sides. Notice I probably haven't even moved that far. The sides do not have a lot of thrust. See, hardly moving at all here. But the main thing you're going to want to do with this ship, be able to move forward, and the ability to, with all of the gyros in there, the ability to turn rapidly is going to make up for the inability to go from side and up and down. You can really just whip this thing around really quickly. So that's just a little demonstration of how well the ship actually works. We'll get this thing back into the position and we will finish up the rest of the tour of the ship. Several consoles here you could put to do different functions on the ship, opening the doors, or later I plan to use them for maybe rotating the wings when I finish this up. But I felt to give a good look here too, you know, an appearance as much as functionality. So I think that's a pretty much wrap-up tour for the inside of the ship. Like I said, there's plenty of escape hatches as they were on Serenity itself. There's one actually behind it. There's a panel right there. If you carve that away, there's actually an escape hatch there also, which was on the plans for Serenity also, but I just kind of blocked it off there so that you wouldn't have to look at it. It didn't really look that good, but you can get to it fairly easily just by breaking that panel there. Let me just give you a peek down here at the underneath. See, there's the door right there that goes into the bridge. Up front here, there's lots of little antennas and stuff on the front of the ship, so I decided just to put a grinder and a welder on the front here and a merge block, which can work well alongside the projector. You can set up some plans to be able to put stuff on the front, whether you want to put in an armor block here to give it some more protection if you're going in for an attack, or to put on some mining, some, what do you call them? What are these called? The drills. If you want to put in some actual drills on the front there, you could do that too. Kind of an all-purpose ship is what I was hoping for. Or you could just land some of those little ships, the shuttles here on the wing to take with you. So on the outside we have pretty much fully functional for space engineers. We've got a couple of connectors here, one on each side of these connectors that go throughout, they connect the whole ship from back to front through the conveyor system. You could kind of dock your ship right, there's small shuttles right there to dump out your cargo. We've got the solar panels that are pretty much standard on Serenity. They don't work the same way on Space Engineers, but I think that turned out fairly well. And I kind of just added some wherever they seem like they fit to do a nice mix between Serenity as it would be in the movies and the TV series and what works well for Space Engineers. On the other side here, though, I did put one more connector. It's a little farther forward because the wings seem to interfere with connecting with larger ships. So it's got a pretty close profile here for being able to connect up to things. You could, if you had two Serenities, they could connect along this port right here at the appropriate angles. I think they would work fairly well. Yeah, it looks like they'd be tight, but you could connect them up. So there's the head of Serenity. Really hard to try and get this to look the way I wanted it to. I think it turned out fairly well. You got a nice little slope down here, down the back. You've got the little bay window there. You've got the large thrusters on the side. The emergency exits, like that one right there. You've got these pistons here, which really don't do anything. They are more for just look. I did have one where it rotated out here and grabbed onto that to rotate it down, but just too many problems, too easily bang things up. Stability on Space Engineers isn't what you'd want it to be just yet to do that all the time. Sorry about that clicking in the background. I don't know why it's doing that. It seems to be doing that a lot since the last time I updated. We got the beacon and the antenna here. I think it turned out pretty well. Replacement of those. We've got the heatsink things out here to cool off the engine. Underneath the belly here, got some of the connectors that go across them, like that one right there, and a couple of these passageways to try and mimic the same thing as on Serenity. It's small, so it was hard to figure out something that would work for usefulness and give it the appearance of being a little bit better than just a flat belly here. We've also got the cargo bay dumping entrance right here. There's just a panel right on top of that you can cut through if you want to actually access this. As you notice, we got a couple of sensors up there. We got several cameras here all over the place. I tried to make them as functional as possible if you want to get some looking around. They're usually good for zooming in on things. You can't zoom with your normal view, but you can zoom through the camera. So the wing ones work really good for the front, and we've got several here that you can zoom into things a little bit better. This light right here is based on more for the appearance, but it would also work good for surveying the ground underneath you. I put several lights in positions around the gravity generator, I think is what this is actually supposed to be in the show. But I just kind of gave some lights here to give a little bit of glow to put out the appearance of the spinning component there that's usually lit up. We've got thrusters all over the place, wherever I could fit them that wouldn't look too odd. There's a lot more thrusters that need to be on here to make this thing function properly than you would have on the show. We've got a connector up here on top that goes down, connects up to everything basically. You can kind of see into the engine room by looking through this. The reactors, you can dump stuff into the reactors through that. We've got the rear on here has a connector here that you really wouldn't connect up to. It's more for dispelling items through, kind of like a chaff dispenser, some kind of deterrent. Get a little closer, I can click on it. Yeah, I called it the chaff flare dispenser. And it's actually connected up through, there's a few different connectors. They're internal connectors here. You can kind of see it through this. There's actually three connectors. There's a connector, connected to a connector, connected to a connector. So basically you can't accidentally dump out your internal, like all your components and everything. You have to actually put them into either this connector or the one that is connected to right here in order to shoot things out, which made it easy to use, but not too easy that you would lose everything when you try and make a run from something when you want to dump out some kind of interference. components there. So I think we've got pretty much the gist of the tour here. Like I said, there's several cameras around here. There's a camera right there. Some cameras on the side. There's another camera right there. You can see the refinery out here. A few thrusters here wherever I could fit them, and I tried to put all these thrusters so that they are at least 2 away from the ground. There's a couple of them that I've kind of hidden inside here also, so you can land this thing without tearing up the terrain or the landing pad if you've got thruster damage turned on. Got the projector there, which you can use to rebuild the ship, make a copy production of the ship, or to add on the front things, adapters, or whatever kind of builds you want to use out of that. So I think things have turned out fairly well. I'm thinking I missed something, but I don't see what it is. Later I'm going to finish up those shuttles and make them a little bit better. I am going to also be starting an exploration series here for Serenity, which will involve discovering some of the community builds and also testing out the game features and some of my own personal builds. I'm not going to be going for a base build, more of a roaming base using Serenity. So I hope you enjoyed the tour. Feel free to leave me any comments that you feel would help me out, or let me know what you thought about this build here. And subscribe for future content to my channel, Avail Pursuit. And I will see you in the next one. Now get on with your pursuit. Oh shoot.